Good morning again. Today's speaker today is Michelle Monero. She's the founder of EDRS, Eating Disorder Recovery Support Incorporated, a Bay Area nonprofit organization. EDRS offers annual conferences to fund the scholarship fund for Californians who cannot afford treatment for eating disorder recovery. Michelle is the author of Self-Love Diet, the only diet that works, and is also the co-creator of the Love Warrior Community, an online recovery resource, as well as the co-author of the Self-Love Diet e-course, Building a Foundation for Self-Love. Come on up, Michelle.
Thank you. Okay, I don't need this. Yeah, I don't need this. Okay. All right. You know, as I look out here, I'm seeing somebody like Chris, who was in my master's program in the 1980s, and Julie, and seeing people from Recamped. I was the program director in the 1990s, sometime in the 1990s. And so it feels like coming home. It's like a reunion. And Hal is going to be my remote person because I don't have a remote control for a Mac that works like this. I'm kind of old school. I'm not really techie. I look really techie, and I have all these online communities and Facebook things, but my daughter is my social media guru, and she's not here today. That's right. So I'm going just to take a moment for a number of reasons. I'd like to just start with a moment of silence for Corleah. Corleah was in my consultation group and has been a friend for a long time. And so the belt I'm wearing is a gift from her. So, and I'm also going to ask that when we take a moment, that we also remember all of the people who have died from eating disorders. It's the number one killer of all the diagnoses in the DSM. People die from eating disorders the very most. And so, you know, in my career in this field, I have lost one person, and I hope to not lose any more. And my traveling candle. So Hal, can you push the button? So, you know, when I wrote Self-Love Diet, the only diet that works, when you're a writer, you're told to think about a person that you're writing to. So I had a young woman in her early 30s who was in early recovery in mind. But what I have found from my colleagues in private practice and those who are directors of programs for eating disorders is that the book is a very good template for therapists who know a lot about eating disorders and who know nothing about eating disorders. It's sort of like your co-therapist, because in between sessions, you can give them assignments for certain chapters and they can read and write about it and come back. And for those of you who don't know a lot about eating disorders, you can find about them in here, and there's lots of other resources as well. And over here on the table, I do have the brochure for EDRS. It's the nonprofit that I founded in 2005. We just had our conference, so too bad I didn't have this talk, last month, so I could have told you all about it, but it's for Eating Disorder Awareness Week, which is coming up at the end of this month. And keep it in mind, we have one every year, and we have national experts that fly in on their own dime, and they pay for their own hotel accommodations, and they share their knowledge so that we can get that fund raised and help people who can't afford treatment. The other thing that's not on here that I want to say is that this work comes out of my own work in recovery from compulsive overeating. And I think that whether you have a specialty in eating disorders or not, that we all need to have our own recovery, our own personal work. And so even though I'm presenting this as what to do for your clients, please know that in the back of my mind, I'm asking all of you to have your own self-love diet practice, whether it comes from my book or you have your own meditation practice or whatever you're doing already. Because what I've learned, and the reason why I think this book came out was because when people were no longer having their eating disorder behaviors, the families are going, yay, thanks Michelle, she's doing so great. But what I would hear is that these people were saying, you know, I hate myself, I hate my body. And they were no longer fitting the criteria for eating disorders, but they hated themselves. And so I didn't really feel like the recovery was really done. I didn't really feel like, even though that first layer was taken care of, there was more to do. And so for whether you work with eating disorders or not, I think we all have, for whatever reasons our clients come to see us, people have a hard time loving themselves, whether it's trauma or attachment or whatever it is. So I wanted to say that. The difference between regular diet that you'll hear and the way that I'm presenting it is that when we think of diets, we think of food and exercise, the two-prong. And diet in the eating disorder field is kind of almost like a bad word because it can be sort of like the door for eating disorders. It does not cause them, but it can be an invitation for those people who are predisposed to them. And so what I wanted to do is take the word diet and own it and redefine it. So when I looked in the dictionary for diet, it said things regularly offered. And I thought, what if we regularly offered our self-love? And that's the whole thing. You know, any kind of intervention or modality that you give your clients, you know, they don't just check it off and say, oh, thank you so much, Julie. Now you taught me about CBT, and now I got it. You know, we have to practice it every day. You know, so that is sort of the foundational sort of concept, is that we need to regularly offer ourselves love. And then how do you do that? Well, in all these 7 different paths. So go ahead. The first path is the spiritual path, and that's why the self-love diet, I think, works really well for Christian counselors, for counselors who are atheists, for all of our clients, because what I'm trying to help people understand is that they are not their body. So it doesn't matter what their religion is, but if they can understand that and figure out who's inside this body of mine, and if my value is not connected to the way that I look, but who I am, now we've got something to work with. And also, you know, people with eating disorders, it's sort of like a OCD, if you kind of think about that, for those of you who work with sort of obsessions, that ruminating, that's like, that is the voice that people hear. So when they wake up in the morning, they're thinking, what am I going to eat? How much do I weigh? Do I have to exercise? You know, all those kinds of things are going on. Are people looking at my body? What are they thinking about my stomach? What, you know, I can't go to the beach because I'm not going to wear a bathing suit. So the mind is so completely full that once you can help them get out of that and help them understand that there is a purpose beyond losing weight and find out what their purpose is, now they have this energy and they can go forward. And one of the paths is to self-love is the world, because I believe that our personal healing affects the world, and that when we do something small, however small it might seem to us, we're actually beginning a chain of events that are going to not only help us and the people that we're connected to, but our world in a larger field, in a larger way. So the church says the body is a sin. Science says the body is a machine. Advertising says the body is a business. But the body says, I am a fiesta. And so, you know, for those of us in the room that can say that and believe that for ourselves, that's the gift that I want you to be able to give to your clients. And all of us who are in this room, I would imagine, at sometimes don't think our bodies are fiestas. You know, we have aches, we have pains, we have these different things. And so that's the part of the self-love diet when I talk about body, and you can do the next one, is really helping them. One of the simplest sort of umbrella concepts is if you can help your clients think of their body as an instrument instead of an ornament. And people who say, well, I hate my body, I don't love my body, there's no way that you can get me to love my body. Well, how about if we think about what you're grateful for? you can breathe. You know, if you think about the miracle of your heart that it was already beating when you were in utero. I have a granddaughter who's going to be born in June, and I saw the sonogram of her, and there's a little heart going. You know, it starts even before we're born. So having that sense of gratitude for the body. Oh, wait, before I go on, educate your clients about health at every size. So important. Clients are looking at our bodies. And if we're skinny, if we're fat, they're going to be looking at us and they're going to be thinking, how can this person help me? Talk about it. Use your body. And let people know that the evidence, the research does not support the fact, the mythology, that people who are higher weight are unhealthy and people who are lower weight are healthy. People of all sizes are healthy or unhealthy according to fitness. And you can have somebody 300 pounds who is fit. So I really want that to be known and to be spread. And check out the Health at Every Size literature and look at the research that Linda Bacon is doing. Okay.
What's the SLD?
Oh, SLD, self-love diet.
Oh.
So next one. Good question, Hal. So next one. Yes, there's some book. I'm going to walk over here. Is that all right? Just to leave for a moment. I have some free bookmarks here, and on the back of them is the 7 self-love diet, food, and eating guidelines. It's in the book. And also, it looks like I ran out of handouts. If you don't have a handout, email me, and I will. I'll send you all that kind of handout, all the information.
It will probably be on the website as well.
Right, that's right. Recamped is going to put all this on their website.
Once we put the video up, the handouts will also be, there'll be a PDF of the handout.
So, here's the 7 steps right here, and each one of these could be like a whole day conference, right? Eat when you're physically hungry. So clients with eating disorders don't have any sense of when they're hungry. And so in the book I was very grateful to Karen, forget her last name now, who's the RD that did the scale 0 to 10. And it helps to have like a language with your clients. 0 is starving, you haven't eaten, and you would eat everything that you see. 10 is Thanksgiving full. 5 is you're not thinking about food. 6 would be you've eaten, but you have a little more room. If you don't eat any more, maybe in a couple hours you're going to be hungry. 7 is, you're satisfied, and 4 hours or more will go by and you'll be okay. So, establishing that kind of a thing with your clients. Yes, John?
I just have a quick question about this theory that I need to stop eating when I'm 80% full and wait for half an hour until I get full. I struggle.
So, yeah, John, so that's another really good thing to do with your clients is to find out what are their rules. They'll have food rules, they'll have good foods, they'll have bad foods, they'll have I can't eat after 8 p.m., I have to drink a glass of water before. Find out what all those things are. And of course, if you're working with somebody who is anorexic, you're not going to be teaching them intuitive eating. They're going to have to work with a registered dietitian, you're going to need a treatment team approach, and they're going to need to have somebody telling them what to eat. But if you're working with somebody who is not at risk, and has the foundation to start looking inward and paying attention to their hunger signals and figuring out what is intuitive eating and what is mindfulness, and giving them the example of a little baby who is nursing and just breaks away when they're full. That we have lost that because we're looking at the time and looking at the calories and all of that. So it's sort of a re-education. And we have to re-educate ourselves as well if we're going to be able to really be good at teaching our clients. The mind-emotion path, I put those two together because you can't separate them. So this, is just really kind of what we do anyway. If you can go ahead, Hal, and do it again, I'll just show you. But the thing that's different is that when I'm working with my clients and I'm working with their mind and their emotions, on the next slide in a moment, I'll show you, you really want to work with the body so that for this, the HALT comes from the 12-step, program. Fear, false expectations, appearing real. The thoughts, feeling, action loops, is a CBT. So this is nothing new, but the thing that is that is good for that is, do the next one, is using the body with that, so that when they're thinking about an emotion, when they're thinking about a thought, bring them back to their body. When you think about that, when you feel that, where do you feel that in your body? What does it feel like? Giving them sensate words, fast, slow, cool, jaggedy, jittery, relaxed, hot, because people don't usually have that language for sensations. Let's see what else. And then for those of you who do EMDR, it's kind of like that, when you're going back and you're trying to connect, what the thought or the behavior is. So the same thing here, like I'm trying to say flashback, but it's not flashback. What is?
Bridging?
Bridging, bridging, thank you. Menopausal mind happens every so often here. So, when there's an emotion, you can help them figure out where it is in their body. Somatic is going to be really, for those of you who don't do somatic work, you're going to want to bring that in more when you're working with people with eating disorders. And just diaphragmatic breathing. Trying to get people sort of in their body also, so I'll have people lay down on the floor or on the couch and I'll put a book on their stomach, because most people with eating disorders are dissociated from their body. And so if they're breathing like this, that's not going to help panic attacks or anxiety, right? But if they can learn to breathe from their stomach, and it's free and it's easy. Okay, next one. Relationship path. So, we talk about relationships a lot, but the one thing that I would like you to suggest to your clients is focusing a little bit more on their relationship with them and how important that is. Because I don't know about you guys, but my clients most of my clients are actually really good at being loving and kind to their friends and their family. And the things that they say to themselves in their mind, they would never dream of saying to their loved ones. But they do. They say it to themselves all the time. Okay, go ahead. So one of the things, gratitude, it's one of those things that you kind of think, oh, gratitude, yeah, I know that. But it's so different when you actually sit there with them and ask them to tell you who are they grateful for, what are they grateful about, asking them to have a practice. So, and one of the things that I'd like you to add on to that, and so one of the self-love diet practices that I use myself and I ask my clients to do is before they get out of bed, to sit in bed and think about what they're grateful for. What are their blessings? Who do they love? But instead of having it be like a checkoff list or a litany, actually, if you think of one person, so I'm going to think of my husband. So I could say I'm grateful for my husband. Okay, good. I'm from here up, right? But I ask my clients to say that and then think about their husband or their wife or their person with a specific memory in mind until they can actually feel that gratitude. So for me, it's going to be, he came this morning and gave me the cup of coffee. So now it's in my body. So those are the kinds of just little tweaks that you want to do with the stuff that you're doing already. The other thing too, we all know about I feel because and I wish, right? So, but in relationships, if you can give them something, again, that's body somatic oriented, when they're pointing, if I'm pointing at you, Denise, and I'm going to say, something I don't like about you, then I need to say, okay, so, but what am I feeling? Why am I feeling that, and what do I want? So, in the book we talk about, criticisms, and it's an invitation to look inward. Okay. The cultural path. So, this is the thing that, when I first was in this field many, many years ago, is that people would say, well, this is, it's the media, and it's the culture, and it's so toxic, and I say yes. And then people would say, and there's nothing we can do about it. And I say, no, that's not true. Because we are the culture. And I think as therapists, we have sort of like an extra little, oomph, we have a little extra power, because when people come to us, they're paying us and they're coming to us, they're seeking something from us. So we get to create offices that are culturally healthy. So I don't have People magazines in my waiting room. When people say media, is, is toxic. I say, well then, don't look at those swimsuit things. When you're going to buy magazines or subscriptions, if you want something that's going to be inspiring, get a spiritual book. Subscribe to something that you can really be behind, because we do have the ability to create our own culture. And I do want to say too that a lot of the people that I'm working with, well, actually not right now, but in the past were like 20s and 30s. My clientele actually is a little bit older right now. But they're very savvy on the internet. And so my daughter helped me, and we have this Love Warrior community, and it's a culture online where people can go and you look on the photo gallery and you see people who are not airbrushed. You see real people. You look at videos that people have thought were inspiring, that are not about what's the latest diet. You get to listen to songs that people have said they thought were uplifting. So, we can create community in lots of different ways and change the culture. The world path. So how can a personal issue become a social one? That is my belief system. At the EDRS conference last week, there was a workshop that was done by Dea Schwartz, and she's in the East Bay. And she had us get like a little ball of yarn. and throw it to the person and say what I was grateful for. And then you would take that and you would throw it to this person and say, Juanita, I'm grateful for that. And then we'd throw it around. And at the end, there were all these links. And everybody was connected, and it kind of looked like an internet kind of connection. And so that's kind of what the World Path is about. I think that when we share our message that people do recover from eating disorders, they can recover from eating disorders, and that there is this life that does not have to be guided or powered by how much you weigh and the number on the scale, that you can wake up in the morning, you can feel grateful, that when you say that to somebody, you are affecting change. And when you help your clients figure out what they're passionate about in life, now they're actually going to go into the world and bring their unique gifts and talents. And that's why I really do have hope. It's like when I was writing the book, there was this very idealistic kind of part of me that I started doubting. And I thought, well, maybe the word diet, in this culture here, maybe we can change that for our clients. But I'm probably not going to see people thinking about the 7 paths of diet in my lifetime. But then my daughter, who is my social media guru, the editor of the book and all that, she may be getting a job with Redbook or Good Housekeeping with the health section. So if she starts writing about diet as the 7 paths, that it's very, very encouraging. So I think that we really do have the power to change the world for the better. How to work with body image. So, this is really the stickler. This is one of the most difficult parts, is that we all have this sort of image of ourselves that isn't necessarily actually what other people see. And so I'm going to give you just a couple of different ideas to use. So we have to give a vision about what that could be, to be in our bodies and to feel like it's a holder for our spirit and not have all the attention be on the body. And so telling a story, talking about health at every size, giving a feminist perspective, encouraging people to write. Why don't you go ahead and do the next one? So I have, and how much more time do I have?
An hour and 5
Whew, oh my gosh, okay, good. Okay, so here's a story that I wrote. It's a short story, and I'm going to read it to you. It's something that I read to my clients. You may find something that you like better. But there's a person in the eating disorder field named Anita Johnston that is really one of my mentors. And she wrote a book called Eating in the Light of the Moon. So if you don't have that book, that's another really good book to have. And she uses metaphor, because when you're working with clients with eating disorders, there can be very black and white kind of thinking. And so we want to go through the back door, right? Okay, so here's a story. And I'm going to look for get my water here for a moment. Okay, so one thing I do when my clients come into my office is I start with meditation or prayer, whatever that works for them, because I think that our offices need to be a sanctuary. We need to have it be something that is different from where they're coming from. They're coming from all the problems and from the culture that's toxic and whatever, they had a hard time getting to your office and they couldn't find the parking place or whatever that is. So whenever they come in, I light a candle and I use the bell, and it brings in the spirituality for whatever that is for that person, but it also is a practice. Every time they come to see me, and hopefully when they come to see you, they'll be able to get into their body, sink down, and learn how to self-soothe. So I'm going to treat you all as if you're in my office, and I'll do this before I read and then after I read it. Dancing in the light of the moon. Once upon a time, women were honored by all. These women had bodies that were supple and curvy. Their bellies were rounded, their hips were wide, and they curved in and out, and their breasts were many different sizes. These women were taught as young girls to love their bodies. Their hips, buttocks, and abdomens were considered the center of their creativity, fertility, and power. Men honored and respected women and recognized their softness and curves as symbols of fertility. All the women would gather under the moon when a maturing girl began her first menstrual cycle to initiate her into womanhood. Stories would begin about the wonders of her body and the honor being female had in their culture. The women would drum and dance with the initiates in the light of the moon until sleep took them over, or until the rapturous state was broken by the beckoning of the morning sun. During this celebration, the women would pass on the knowledge and wonders of womanhood and sexual union to the next generation of women. Younger girls looked longingly at their budding friends and yearned for the day when their hips and stomach would fill out. They knew the prestige and desirability these changes in their bodies carried in their culture. They understood that it was the signal of the mysteries beginning within their friends and impatiently waited for their moonlight initiation with the women of the village. Girls were taught from the very beginning to value themselves and their friends. Their special gifts were recognized and encouraged. Their identity and value was not confused with their appearance. This was a time of power that came from collaboration instead of competition. The villagers were taught to listen to their inner wisdom and to speak their truth. Differences were addressed assertively. Aggressive and passive communication was discouraged. And if it occurred, it was confronted with respect. Creativity abounded. People approached life with a mindset of abundance, vision, and the ability to solve problems collectively. They understood that their bodies were the temples for their souls. They were good stewards of their bodies, thoughts, emotions, words, and actions. Each person was revered and sought quiet solitude and communion with their higher self. Each individual continually sought after their purpose and did their best to follow the will of their higher power. The community encouraged individuals to find their unique place within the village. They lived together peacefully with joy, respect, creativity, and love. So I'd like to ask you, what are you noticing? What thoughts or emotions are coming up for yourself personally, or how you might use this with your clients? Yeah, Michael.
Well, hearing you tell that story, I feel sort of empathy and sad that so many women struggle with that and don't feel that.
Yeah. Michael was saying that he felt empathy and some sadness that women, have struggled with this and don't feel
Honored as
honored.
story
Mm-hmm.
described.
Yeah. Yes.
I was, when you were telling the story, I thought of what you had said earlier too about the, think of someone you love or care about, and instead of just thinking, oh, okay, up here, just go down into your hard belly, and you said, oh, my husband this morning, he brought me a cup of coffee. I thought to myself, well, he brought me something to drink or eat or something. I wonder if we get that back as a primary feeling with our mothers who offered us her milk for something to sustain us, to feed us. She gave us love, so we got protection and love and that nourishment. And I wonder if that's part of what we're longing for, and the food is the way.
Yeah, thank you, Juanita. Yeah, she was saying, she was thinking about how food and drink is so connected to the nurturing from our mothers and in that connection with love. Janine Roth has a book called When Food is Love. And I think that is, just, it's so core. That's why there's so many, metaphors about, feeling my plate is too full when we're busy. It's like, these food metaphors are really about, I think the core issue is loving ourselves, feeling loved, being loved, feeling that we're worthy and deserving, that we are lovable. And that goes across any diagnosis that your clients might have. And it goes across boundaries between therapists and clients. As therapists, we want to be loved. We want to have those relationships in our lives that fill us. We need to be able to have a practice of working with those spots that are hard for us to love about ourselves, so that we can be a model for our clients. And food is so intricately put together with nurturance and love, absolutely. And that's why I think eating disorders can be really very challenging to work with, because it's such a core physiological, emotional, spiritual relationship issue. It's like, it's kind of thinking about that yarn that was put all, it's like, how do you untangle it all? Yeah. Yes.
Well, I was trying to get in touch with my own body. And, I've always had long-term struggle with weight, and just trying to, realizing a lot of, when I exercise, I'm in touch with my body. When I eat, I'm not. But I was just trying to be in touch with my body and feel what I appreciate about it and where I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah. Thank you. Because, when we're working with ourselves or with our clients, there's going to be times when, we're going to want to feel comfortable in our body, but there's going to be lots of times when we don't feel comfortable in our body. And so one of the things that I help my clients with is when we don't feel comfortable in the body, if you're bringing your clients inward and you're asking them to pay attention to their breath, and they have Lyme disease, somebody's working with that and they've got a lot of pain, or they have, they just were in a car accident recently and there's some soreness, what you can do is you can use that, and ask them to go there. Where is that soreness? Tell that part of your body, help is on the way. And imagine help coming. And there's on my website, on bonuses, I don't think I have this on here, maybe I do. You can go there and you can listen to a body love visualization. So bringing your imagination, but also enlivening the sense of sensations in your body, is really helpful, not just to bring love and to make everything feel good, but to work with those parts that don't feel good and to give some words for them. Because I think that, part of the eating disorder is like, I don't want to look at that. let me just focus on food, right? So we're trying to help our clients look at everything. And we're trying to help our clients see the light and the shadow and everything. So, yeah, thank you. Anything else come up for people with that story? Yeah, Bob.
So I was appreciating you for writing it and sharing it. And since I greeted you when you came in, we celebrated the connection, that we've had. And I think that I was actually really appreciating the connection of all of us.
Mm-hmm.
That it does take work to go in and find this real self and then be able to share it. But we're all involved in that. We all know that. And we're all doing it. And we are changing our culture. We're a good part of that. So that was just a lot of gratitude and appreciation for all the connections. There was here,
Yeah.
me with me, and me with you, and you, and all of us.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to stay here.
I know, it feels good, doesn't it? Yeah, Susan.
Yeah, my sense and what was just kind of what I got out of the story as you read it, is connected to what Bob said, because I wrote power from collaboration rather than competition. Help each other find unique place within the village. And that there's the sense that I have a place. It's hopeful in that I'm connected. I'm not alone.
Yeah, right.
So to be able to somehow create a space where my client might be able to experience that. And the hopefulness, like the younger girls looking towards the future with embracing it rather than with fear. So it was just, it had a hopefulness and a connectedness about it that I really value.
I was saying that I had kind of a personal reaction when I was hearing the story because I had a baby a year ago, and so my body has taken on a very different role in the last year. And hearing your story and then looking back over the notes, I was thinking of how this entire self-love diet would be very effective with the postpartum period. I can just see how it would be so helpful, because even just hearing that story, I got tearful a number of times and thought about labor and thought about the process of breastfeeding and just how it really, transforms your perspective on your body.
Yes.
And I started to really think about how grateful I am to have people in my life, specifically my husband, that are supportive of my body in this process.
Yeah.
And so I could just see how this would translate really well to helping moms who are going through postpartum depression or anxiety.
Yeah, thank you. What was your name?
Katie.
Katie. Thank you, Katie. Yeah, I guess I want to make an expanded comment about the self-love diet. I know you're all here because of my background with eating disorders, and I'm really happy to, be available if you have questions about specific clients that you have and how to use this approach. But here's the thing: what I'm noticing as the more and more I go out and talk, is that people who I hadn't anticipated were going to benefit from this are benefiting from it. So my daughter freely shares. She's 27, and there's this younger generation that does blogging and a lot of self-disclosure that, for my age, I've been thinking about boundaries and what is, but this is sort of like a new, sort of a new culture. And one of the things that she has shared in her blogs and when she talks, professionally like this, is that her recovery from bipolar disorder has really been helped through the self-love diet. That that intention of loving yourself and accepting the parts that you love and the parts that are really difficult, that are challenging, and not criticizing or judging the parts that maybe cause you some difficulty, but loving those parts, she says, has been really instrumental in being able to really deal with the mood shifts and things that she has. So, you can sort of broaden your thoughts about how to use this. I know ultimately you're going to say, well, I have this eating disorder client, or I don't have any eating disorder clients, so I can't use it. But start thinking about other ways that it might be helpful. Yes, John.
That's what I was wanted to share too, as how I was thinking of a client, and I work with men, and my understanding is that for women it's similar. This core not good enough. I'll just speak to the men's piece. Being told that, or criticized, or that's not good enough, or yeah, that's fine except for this, and that in filling that or hiding or shielding ourselves from that with food, with alcohol, with sex, with spending money, all a myriad addictions or distractions. Awareness is great, but where does the healing come from? Ultimately, from inside, connection with spirit, in loving self. And so that's
Thank you.
That's what I was getting from you. Thanks.
Good, thanks. I'm glad you got that, because that's what I'm hoping you'll get. Yeah. Hal, you want to go to the next one? So with that story that I just read to you, have your clients write their own story. The other thing I have my clients do is I have them write a self-love letter. And it can be very profound, and you want to encourage them to read it to themselves every day, because it can just be one of those aha moments that then is not connected into their recovery. So if they're writing a story for themselves, or they're writing the self-love letter, or they're writing the self-forgiveness letter, or the body forgiveness letter, or the body love letter, and there's templates on the Love Warrior community that they can go if you don't have time to do that in your session, but that's something they could do outside adjunctively. That writing is a very powerful means of working through body image. And again, health at every size, find out about that. Eating in the light of the moon, having a feminist perspective. For your male clients, it's very much, I don't see it really as any different. I know that there might have to be a little tweaking that you do, because I have heard from some men that that the feminist perspective of this book, focusing more on women than men, that they want me to do a self-love diet for men. And so, and I haven't worked with that many men. I've worked with more women than men, but it hasn't been that different, I've found. Because men actually today are bombarded now with the magazines with a six-pack, and they're doing things with steroids for their sports. And so maybe it's a little bit of a shift, but I think that a feminist perspective could also be used for men, because in some ways they're kind of equal to women now with this body dissatisfaction. That was not the direction we want equality to go in for men, however. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering about having the client write the self-love letter. I have a male client who, in all my years of working with people, has probably the most virulent self-hating talk, and I work with it in a variety of ways. But I love that idea, but I'm already hearing how he could say, well, yeah, I could write it, but I don't believe it, I don't feel it. So I'm curious.
Yeah, so I would start with acceptance before love then. Gratitude before love, the body as an instrument versus an ornament. What could really be true for him, authentic, so that if he thanked his heart for beating, if he thanked his muscles for being able to stretch, or, so that it can be true for him. And then for those of you who have clients who are ready to write it, when they're writing it in session, read it back to them. There's something that's really important about being mirrored. I do have an attachment background. And so when you say it out loud to them, they receive it in a different way and hear it in a deeper way. So I would ask you to do that for them. Yeah.